Welcome to Football with Cheese. Happy Wednesday, everybody. So in this video, we're going to go over the state of the Cincinnati Bengals, where they're going, the mistakes I think they've made. But first, make sure you're subscribed, hit the bell for notifications so you do not miss one of my videos. So I will link in one of these boxes at the end my instant reaction to the trade of Joe Flacco. I'm going to talk about that video, what I got right and wrong, and just basically overall what's going on with the Bengals. So make sure you check that at the end. I will also link my instant reaction to the Tyler Shuck news. He's now the starting quarterback of the Saints, rookie second-round pick. So check that out if you have not. So Joe Burrow gets injured. He went 2-0 as a starter. They tried Jake Browning, the backup, who had some success in 2023 when Burrow missed some time. But it went terrible this time around. Browning took way too many chances. He was under pressure a lot. The offensive line isn't good. More on that in a second. And he decided to throw it up to Higgins and Chase, and he was throwing way too many interceptions. He does not have good pocket awareness. He does not have a very good arm. And it was a disaster. They were getting blown out. So they're 2-4, and the Bengals had to make a decision. Do we punt on the season, which they should have done, or do we trade for a quarterback that can win us some games, and let's hope we're, maybe 6-6, 6-7, something like that when Burrow comes back, because he's supposed to come back early to mid-December. And that's what they did, and they traded for Joe Flacco. And in that instant reaction, I thought it was a dumb move. I thought it was only a slight upgrade from Flacco to Browning. Turns out it was more than a slight upgrade. Flacco, well, he doesn't have the arm he used to. He has much better pocket awareness. He's more careful with the football, even though he threw 6 interceptions with the Browns. At least 2, maybe 3 of them were off the receiver's hands, not his fault. So Flacco, turns out, was an improvement. And they lose to Green Bay. Packers are really good. But he plays pretty well. Packers started blitzing the second half for some reason, leaving Jamar Chase one-on-one with Keyshawn Nixon. Did not go well for the Packers. So the Bengals' offense looked pretty good in the second half, and then they beat the Steelers. Okay. So now it looks like I was totally wrong. Looks like the Bengals got a shot. And I think one of the reasons they made the trade, a lot of people aren't talking about this, is how bad the Ravens started. Ravens started 1-5 with all their injuries. Lamar Jackson's been out for a few weeks. If the Ravens were 4-1 or 4-2, something like that, I don't know if the Bengals make the trade, but they saw that Steelers' schedule was about to get harder. They saw how bad the Ravens had played and all their injuries, and they thought we could win this division, maybe at 9-8, 10-7. So let's make a trade and try to stay in it. Great win against the Steelers. But the Steelers have a bad defense. They got absolutely wrecked in the second half by Jordan Love and the Packers and Tucker Kraft. And the Bengals were okay. Okay, we're 3-4. We beat the Steelers. But you have to beat the New York Jets. They're the worst team in the NFL record-wise, and they lose 39-38. Let me pull that up because they absolutely collapsed. Gave up 23 points in the fourth quarter. What happened was Trey Hendrickson, the star pass rusher for the Bengals, led the league in sacks last year. He gets hurt. And without him, the defense is horrible. It's bad with him. Without him, it's horrible. And it showed. And DJ Turner, who's had a great year at corner, they really missed him last year when he got hurt. Probably his worst game of the year. So the Bengals completely blow a game where they led by 15 points, I think, going into the fourth quarter, give up 23 fourth quarter points, like I mentioned, and they lose to the winless Jets. And because of that, it's looking like I was right. Let's go back to the video. I was wrong about saying that Flacco was a slight upgrade. He's a big upgrade. Not a huge upgrade, but he's a big upgrade over Browning, who was just awful. But I was right that they should punt on the season and shouldn't have made this deal. The pick swap was next to nothing. 40, 50 spots, you move down the draft on day 3. That's nothing. That's not what I have a problem with. Is you've won one more game already with Flacco. You might win 1 or 2 more. And you're not a contender this year. Even with Joe Burrow, your offensive line and your defense is not good enough. So the Bengals, I get why they did it. You don't want to punt on the season. You want to try to go for it. But even with Burrow, this is not 2021. They don't have a good enough team to make a run to the Super Bowl. Let's just look at the roster real quick. I'm going to pull it up. Give me 1 second. You have a really good running back in Chase Young, and he's played well the last 2 weeks. But the Jets and the Steelers have bad run defenses. He did nothing before then because the offensive line is terrible at run blocking. Obviously, you have Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. Jamar Chase is probably the best receiver in the NFL. T. Higgins is very, very good. But if you look at the offensive line, it's awful, especially in the interior. They're playing rookies Jalen Rivers and Dylan Fairchild, who just aren't ready at all. Jalen Rivers, I watched a lot of film of him. Terrible technique, athletic, needs a year or two. Does not need to play right away. Orlando Brown's probably the best offensive lineman, but he's above average at best. Probably average. Amari Mintz is not developed in the second year like they thought. Very talented player. Ted Karras at center hasn't been very good. It's just a bad offensive line. One of the reasons Burrow gets hurt a lot is he's under pressure all the time. And on defense, G.J. Turner and Trey Hendrickson are the only players that are even good. Even average, actually. If you just look at the defense, there's just no one that's any good besides these two players. The Bengals have not drafted well the last 2 seasons. Chris Jenkins, defensive tackle, second-round pick. He is not developed. Miles Murphy was a first-round pick. He is not developed. Shamar Stewart, he's been hurt, but he's done nothing. He's their first-round pick this year. He needs a lot of development. Very talented guy. Demetrius Knight, second-round pick, linebacker to South Carolina. Major reach. Should have been a 4th-round pick. Took him in the 2nd. Barrett Carter, I like that pick a lot in the 4th round, but he's still young. Hasn't done much. TJ Slayton was free agent signing. I could have told the Bengals front office, he's terrible. He's a 330-pound nose tackle, played for the Packers last year, that can't stop the run. A nose tackle that can't stop the run. He's been awful this year. But if you just look at this roster, the first and second-year players have not been good at all. And that is a huge problem. And that is why they're not as good as the 2021 Bengals. The defense is better. The offensive line wasn't great, but it was still better. And the Bengals aren't going to contend with Burrow. They might have made the playoffs if Joe Burrow was healthy, just because he's amazing and they had the receivers. They have Chase Young. But even if somehow they sneak in the playoffs, are they going to beat the Chiefs, Bills, Colts 3 in a row? Absolutely not. What they should have done, and I mentioned that in the instant reaction video, is punt on the season. Just roll with Jake Browning, knowing you're going to lose. Go 4-13, pick 5th or 6th, trade back out of the top 10, because someone is going to want to move in the top 10 because it's a great quarterback class. It's a perfect draft to be terrible and not need a quarterback. And move back, get a ton of picks over the next 2 years, draft 3 or 4 offensive linemen, draft a lot of defensive players, because the roster needs a turnover. They have drafted so poorly over the last 2 years. They need bodies. They need talent. Yes, some of these young guys could develop, especially Shamar Stewart. The talent is there. There were comparisons to Davian Clowney, and I get that. But the rest of the roster just has not developed, and it's not good. The Bengals are so poorly run. They handled the Trey Hendrickson situation about as bad as you could. I don't think they're going to trade him. They should before the deadline next week. All they're going to get if he leaves in free agency is a 3rd-round compensatory pick in 2027, not next year, at the end of the 3rd round, pick 98, 99, something like that. They need more for Hendrickson. I guess they could still extend him, but if you were going to extend him, why didn't you do it before Micah Parsons and Aiden Hutchinson and Myles Garrett got paid? Now he's going to want 35, 36, maybe 38 million a year. You could have gotten him for probably 30, 31 if you paid him before free agency. I don't think they're going to pay him. And what's really messed up about the Bengals, and I looked this up right before the video, I'm so glad I did. They have one of the best cap situations over the next 2 years in the NFL. They have probably $70 to $80 million in cap room next year. That's assuming that Logan Wilson won't be on the team and TJ Slayton. Because why would they be? If you trade Logan Wilson and cut TJ Slayton, you save about $10 million more on next year's cap. So they could have around $80 million in cap space. And if they move on from those two players, they are only paying their defense, get this, about $65 million in cap next year. The total salary cap is over $250 million. So let me repeat that. They are only paying their defense next year around $65 million in cap. And the salary cap is over $250 million. Why have they not paid Trey Hendrickson? This makes absolutely no sense. The Bengals have one of the best cap situations over the next 2 years in the NFL. Let's compare it to the Cowboys. They don't want to pay Michael Parsons. They're over the cap next year. So that makes sense that they couldn't afford him. Let's get what we can. Still a dumb trade. They should have found a way. But the Bengals have such a good cap situation. This is insane. What are they doing? It's literally one of the worst run franchises because most teams don't have a Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Chase Young, Joe Burrow, Trey Hendrickson. Most teams don't have 5 players that good. DJ Turner is the 6th. That's a really good top 6 players. After that, it's a disaster. So the Bengals have completely blown this. Yes, they're still in it because the Steelers lost and their schedule's tough, but the Ravens 2-5, if they beat Miami tomorrow, they're in great shape. And I just don't see the Bengals winning more than 7 games this year. And it's better if you're not going to make the playoffs to win 4 games than win 7. Because not only do you pick higher, but it's about trading. It's about draft capital. It's about moving back and what you can get. If you pick 5th or 6th, you can get a first round next year to move back to 12 or 13. If you pick 12 or 13, move back down to 20, you might get a 3rd and a 5th. Yeah, that's it. So, I might do, you know what, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do a Ravens-Dolphins preview video because even though the Dolphins are terrible, this is a huge game for the Ravens. And the Dolphins have been playing a little better, so it's a bigger game than most people realize. So look out for that video later on today. Make sure you check out the Lights Out podcast with a time change. I believe it's going to start 8 Eastern and 5 Pacific. Don't quote me on that. Every Tuesday night, we had a lot of fun last night. Check it out in the description. We're doing a watch-along this Monday night for the game. We'll start about 15-20 minutes before. It is the Arizona Cardinals, Dallas Cowboys. Should be a fun game. We're going to have some guests. Should be really high scoring. So that is this Monday, and the podcast is Tuesday. Both links are in the description. Bengals fans, do you agree, disagree? I want to hear from you in the comments because this is a disaster. They could not have handled it worse. It looked promising when they beat the Steelers, but you have to beat the Jets. You had to win that game at home. And you have another game that's winnable versus the Bears this week. You had to win those, get to 5-4 before you play the Steelers again. Because then the schedule's getting brutal. Then you're at the Steelers, like I said, Patriots at home, at Ravens, at Bills, Ravens again, brutal. So you had to be 5-4 before going in that stretch. Make sure you subscribe, hit the bell for notification. Like I said, leave some comments down below about the Bengals. Give me a thumbs up, really helps out the channel. Make sure you share this with anybody as we continue to grow football with cheese. Check these out if you have not, and I'll see you in the next video.